Hello, everybody, and welcome to this P99 conference where we are going to be talking a little bit more about performance, specifically about continuous performance, where I'm going to be taking you from the traditional load testing to SRE, continuous performance, and beyond. So, without waiting more, let's begin. For the ones that do not know me, I am Leandro Melendez, also known in the internet as Señor Performo. I am a developer advocate or performance advocate, if you want to call it, with Grafana K6, a load testing tool that will help you to automate all those pesky processes. As I mentioned, I have a not-so-secret identity as Señor Performo, which started everything from a blog that I started writing, if you want to take a look at it. And also, I am a podcaster, a YouTuber, and as you can see here, a presenter and a public speaker, both virtually and in person when it is allowed. I am really happy to participate with you here at P99, giving you some peculiar tips about me. I am an INTJ from this Myers-Briggs was the name. I'm introverted, I am a bit, all those little things. I don't want to miss much about that. And as well, some other interesting tidbits from me. I'm an early bird. I like to be up there at 5:30 a.m. doing productive stuff, workouts and reading, all those fun things. But I don't want to talk too much about myself because I want to get into the presentation. But before that, I want to thank a lot the amigos and amigas at P99 who gave me the opportunity to be here with you, presenting, sharing the knowledge, and talking about performance. So let's start defining performance testing, which, believe it or not, is not a well-known concept, well understood, if I can say better. So performance testing. What is performance testing? It is performance testing. Testing is the validation and verification. That's a part of testing. We validate, we verify, we read, we measure, we observe, we turn things knowledgeable. Performance refers to the speed and efficiency of something. So software performance testing is the validation and verification of how fast and efficient is your software under a given circumstance. That's key. Beware, not everything, not only load testing is performance testing. You have here the speed and the triforce of performance. You have the speed, you have the efficiency, how many resources your action needs, and a scenario or circumstance. Under what are you gonna measure those other two? Again, performance testing is not load testing. They are not the same. Load testing is a piece of performance testing. Think of it as Leandro Melendez is not the same as this arm. This arm is part of me, yeah, but it's not the same as the whole of me. Microsoft Office is not the same as Microsoft Word. You want to take the holistic picture, do everything performance. Stop, please stop doing just load tests. It's not the same as performance testing. You are missing a lot and doing things kind of wrong if you are not engaging this way. As I was saying, performance testing is kind of an umbrella term. There's load testing inside of it, but there are many other things that you have to do here under this umbrella, like user monitoring to see what is the performance of their user experience in the browser, all those elements, single thread performance. You want to know what happens with a single user, a single action, not only load testing. You want to know performance in production from synthetics. What is happening through an automation in production? Not load testing. Do not load test production. Well, you can, but we'll get into that. Do not load test production. It's not necessary. You can just have an automation that continuously hits it to know what is happening. Believe it or not, an intersection with performance testing big time is with SRE. because bad performance will bring down the system. There's no reliability on the system. Everything is interconnected. So it extends until there, not only load tests. And there's much, much more that you should be doing when you are performance testing a system, assuring that the system has good performance. What are those other things or the pillars? First, performance in general. As I said, how fast, how efficient is your system in general, not only under load. Then we have load. We may want to know if our system can handle the targeted load. This is kind of tricky and complicated nowadays because we have distributed cloud services. We have microservices that are not in the same box. They are not even in a real box. They are cloud elements, all that thing. Performance also, as I said, covers reliability. Is the system under these stressful conditions or during chaotic, wink, wink, chaotic conditions gonna handle and keep giving good responses? We have as well observability as part of performance testing. If our system is not observable, we don't know what is its performance, well, we need to know at all time how our system performance is doing. So let's go over quickly the past, the present, and the future of performance testing. Or should I say the present, because yeah, it's not the future anymore. We are already there. Woo. So what was performance in the past? Well, the focus on how performance was being done or being tested or measured or assured in the past was a bit different. We did it mainly through load tests. We did it with automations that will slam the system while it was running. We would figure out. It was done just before releasing the software into production, with those releases that happened not often, like once a year, twice a year, but those were big events that happened just before releasing into production. We had as well tests that did multiple steps. To trigger a process that we were interested in, we had to do multiple things before. If we wanted to hit the save button in an application, we had to first get to the home page, then log in, then click on the menu, then go here, get some permissions from the Pope, get lots of things, and finally we could click. That was from the past. As I said, those were more or less front-end steps, recordings. We dealt a lot of stuff from the front end. We used for that software that was really heavy because it supported lots of protocols that was super tough to get, lots of licensing. We still have some of that nowadays, but it was almost the norm. The software had to be super heavy, bulky. Not anymore. We used to test a lot with monoliths, these single huge boxes that were the only things available for the application. As I mentioned, we don't have that anymore. We're spread all over the place. As well, we tended to have frozen environments when we were testing because there were so many steps, the scripts were complicated, all that. The environments had to be frozen so that our long and complex scripts wouldn't break. Another thing is that the performers, the QA people, were the ones in charge of automating the tests. That's not very good anymore. Those became bottlenecks because of the phases and monoliths, waterfalls, and all that. And another thing is that the tests had to be triggered in those tools by those testers or performers in the test environment manually. If they weren't around, no test would happen. That was very bad. And as I said, the test happened once in a while. Once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year if you were lucky, but that was it. Some of those things and many more were being done when you had performance tests or assurance practices in your organization, and many still try to do things that way. So there are changes that are happening in the world, in technology, in our teams, in our organizations. What are them? Well, to To start, the technology and the organizations, the methodologies, everything is evolving, especially the methodologies, continuous and agile. The teams have become smaller. We have pipelines. We have things changing every sprint, hopefully being released every sprint into production or multiple times per sprint. That is possible as well. You have a change, you check it, you test it, you send it, you ship it, it's in production in a few hours. That can happen, that should happen, that's modernity. As well, we have now these technologies where our applications are not anymore this single monolith, or the front end is embedded in the back end and it comes as a single page and is thrown. We have separate tiers where now we have in between our front end and our back end, we have the service tier. It can be as well microservices, and this changes a lot the way in which we test for performance. As I said, that breaks the monolith completely and even spreads our application through multiple, even worldwide locations. One piece of our solution may be in Europe, another piece maybe in a data center in Dallas, some other pieces down there in Brazil. So beware, it's not anymore that huge monolith. And why all this impacts the way how we think performance? Well, we cannot keep our old habits with all these changes. Agile teams have become smaller, faster, and as I said, they keep releasing stuff that may break our all-time scripts and automations and tests. All those code changes happening continuously. We must become faster, we must become continuous. We cannot wait for the person, for the software, for the process, for everything to be created, to be executed, to be updated, to be worked on. We cannot wait for that person, we cannot wait for a particular software. The code needs to be tested everywhere, even in production, beware. The cloud is very difficult as well because the coming of the cloud has made those servers that can grow as much as they want. One can have one load, another can have a different load in different locations. This has made this monolithic load test and looking for the top of the capacity ambiguous because there's a capacity on that server, there's a capacity on the other one, that's just a microservice that does two things. So we're spread all over the place. We cannot think of things in the same way as we did before. Our performance practices definitely have to evolve. Our teams, as I said, I have seen and I have been around several teams that are already experiencing lots of pain around this. The testers, which are separated and have these long processes, long steps, huge executions, they are the only ones that can use these heavy tools, cannot keep up. They are being tired because all this continuous flow gets stopped when the tester has to okay, now I am the one, no one else, I am gonna use the tool, blah, blah, blah. You can see how everything is stopped. It becomes madness. So now we have to have an almost completely different mindset around this. We need to implement the performance of the future. How is this? First, stop just load testing. Stop just thinking about load tests. I may sound repetitive. The ones that know me know that I keep saying this everywhere that I go, and I will keep saying it until I notice that people have to understand. We need to do other things first before we start thinking of performance. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about those. Do not dare to start load testing your application without doing all the other recommendations. Otherwise, you will have all the problems and all the madness that we just mentioned. Yes, it is still important to do load tests, but rarely. You will have very weird occasions where you need to do load testing. Your solution, if you are agile, if you are continuous, if you are modern, supposedly it's already on production. You're just pushing little incremental changes. So there's not much point on trying to do big load tests. You should already know the performance on production. We'll get into that. So the first recommendation, day -1. Before the project starts, bring the performance people to help you identify what are the best processes, best practices, what software, what solutions, what technologies, what will be the distribution of your solution, what tiers, what processes. Define what are the best practices in your team. What is going to happen? Do we have a pipeline? Do we have manual pushes? Do we have any manual process? Or do we have to automate these things? Do we need the developer to do these things? Do we will still do the bottleneck piece where the tester is the only one that can touch these things? All those will be crucial to be defined before you start the project. If you sadly are in a project where this already happened and these decisions have already been taken or probably were not even taken into account, you may want to start by implementing this. Define, fix, and roll back into implementing these recommendations. Do we need this tool? We do need monitors. Do we need to give these tasks to the developer, teach them? Change all that as soon as possible. Now, once you have started sprint by sprint, the performance engineer, the performance people need to come and give some guidance to the team. Every new requirement, task to do on your Kanban board that you have to move needs to be receiving some performance input on what to measure, what is a pass-fail criteria, the completed criteria for your post-its in your Kanban board, super critical. When will they reach production? And what type of tests do you have to do with those small loads? Super important that all this is defined every sprint as soon as you start with the sprint planning meeting. Now, another crucial thing, the developers, and if possible, the whole team needs to be automating. I give this example with the cook or the chef, where if you are cooking something, it's very silly that you put together, let's say, a sandwich. You put the ham, you put the cheese, you put the bread, you put the chopstick, an olive at the top, you put some decoration, fries, and send the dish to be tested. Oh, the fries need salt, the sandwich has no mustard. Okay, you're giving back this, you disassemble it. You're wasting lots of time. Why don't you, as a developer or the person in the team in charge, can automate it, can test it, can run it, can put it in the pipeline right away? Clear all those as check-ins, check-in requirements for the code. That's part of the process that we defined. The performer, or in those sprint plannings, that was defined. What is your service level objective? What is a pass? What is a fail? Can it move through the pipeline to reach into production? Those are key and crucial. Now, as I said, monitor, observe, beware of your software. It is key. And if I dare say, this is the most important thing for your organization in terms of performance. Know it. Know what is happening with your performance. Monitor everything. Install APMs, traces, instrumentation, everywhere in development, in QA, in production, in pre-production, in your fridge, in the microwave, everywhere, please. Even in the developers' machines. If you can figure out the performance there, you are way ahead. Shift left and shift right, because if you monitor production, you also will know what happens. Key, everyone in the team or in the organization must be able to go and check what is happening in this monitor. It's super important that everyone that has some interest can go there and check. Now, you should also shift right your performance. Everything that the developers, all those monitors that was generated as scripts, inherited to the SREs, the operations, to production, so that they can keep using it as synthetics, continuously execute some of those automations to check the health of production, to keep testing. And when something is detected, loop it back to dev. Roll back if there's a critical problem, reboot everything, beware, be analyzing, and shift right your performance efforts. And okay, you can do load tests as well, but rarely, not always. As I said, there are special occasions, specific situations where you will need to do a load test. There's like a Black Friday, big events where There's no other way in which you really should test the limits. But they are rare. Again, the ones trying to slam the system, bringing it down always. Even how many users can I serve? That metric is not worth anymore. It's not so good. But something, if you need to do a load test, absolutely need to do like these capacity tests. Never do it from scratch. It's a huge waste to try to do them from scratch. Focus on what you have, what the developers generated, what the monitors are telling you from production so that you can model a good test. Leverage all that and you will have a load test right away, super quick. So, and as well, focusing on capacity is very difficult. On the cloud is tough to reach that capacity. There are some other perspectives that you should test on those situations. But if you did all the homework that I told you earlier, you most probably are going to be fine. And with that, I want to keep it short. I want to thank you all very much for attending this quick talk on modern continuous performance. With that, thank you, everyone. If you want to learn more, here at K6, we have some sources that you can use. You can ask some more questions. Let us know. My name is Leandro Melendez. It was such a pleasure. Thank you very much and have a great day. Adios.